Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, the Billings City Council will bring a levy to voters with the goal to not go backwards when it comes to funding public safety. If no action is taken, however, on the budget, the city says it will have to find a way to make up about $7 million. In basic terms, the city is spending more than it's bringing in to fund the police and fire departments. City Council last night passed the first reading of ballot language that voters will see in the fall. Tonight, Q2's Mitch Slade tells us what the city will do if the levy doesn't pass.
In a special election in the upcoming months, Billings voters will have their say on whether to amend a mill levy previously passed in 2004. If approved, the city would bring in an additional $4 million to help fund police and fire services. However, that would still leave about $3 million to be made up elsewhere, either through cuts or a dip into the reserves. Both chiefs of the departments have told the city council that they don't want to go backwards when it comes to providing services to the citizens. If voters don't pass the levy, the city would have to find a way to cut the budget or dip into the reserves to the tune of about $7 million. Now, if this measure does pass, the city council has said that it won't completely fix the city budget. They seem to be looking toward another ask sometime in 2020. In Billings, Mitch Slade, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Mitch. Now, the ballot language is scheduled for a second reading at a council meeting next Monday. Well, summer school is in session for Billings high schoolers, and it's on the way for elementary and middle schoolers. And all students and parents, listen up. The superintendent says in-person classes are set to resume August 24th. Now, Greg Upham also wants you all to know there are a few more sessions of high school summer classes in July, so there's still time to register. And about 10% of the school district's technology devices are still out in the community. Upham says parents should contact their building principal to arrange returns. Now, when school gets back in session this fall, schedules may look a bit different for teachers and parents. Nothing is final yet, but administrators plan to reduce the group size of students intermingling throughout the Billings schools. Possible strategies include shifting the times of passing periods, lunch, and dismissal. Accommodations right now, Upham is asking parents to let their school principal know if they need special accommodations for students with bigger health risks.
What we need now is we need students and parents who know that they have significant health issues with their children. We need to communicate that with our building administrators because that is going to assist us in our planning. Same thing with faculty as we move forward. So there's some unknowns in some of this, but I really wanted to get this information out as soon as possible so we can do the appropriate planning.
Again, the district plans to resume in-person classes here in Billings starting August 24th. Well, after Sunday's peaceful protest in downtown Billings demanding racial equality for all, protest organizers say they didn't expect the huge turnout and they are hopeful for the future. Q2's Jeanelle Slade reports.
We knew it was going to be a large showing, but we didn't know it was going to be around 2,000 people deep. So it was absolutely incredible to see the dedication and commitment from our community come out and show so much love and support for the cause and for us as well.
Ken and Amber were proud of those in attendance for keeping the protest peaceful and beneficial to the community.
Yeah, the best thing about it was that it was all peaceful. There was absolutely no violence, no arrest, no reason for the cops to get involved in a negative way. Everything was positive. Everybody was there to hear the message. Everybody was there to listen, and everybody was there to spread the word.
Ken says he hopes police officers in Billings and throughout the country can use these protests to educate themselves.
My number one hope is that all the cops that were in attendance and were protecting us, they were also listening to the messages as well, because, you know, the main thing we want is police reform throughout the entire country. That includes here too.
The two organizers said they have more plans for the future to educate and help minorities and other groups in the Billings community.
We're going to have a lot of different events for the community to join in on. We'll have different workshops and classes, and we're actually hoping to do some type of retreat as well, because we want to definitely dive into mental illnesses and different people that are affected with those.
In Billings, Jeanelle Slade, MTN News.
Thanks, Jeanelle. Now, a protest in Whitefish turned ugly last week after a local man confronted demonstrators.
The words of my father that he used to speak to us as children when he would talk about, keeping us safe and all that stuff when we were children, he used to tell us that no matter what the threat, always look them in the eye, so they have to acknowledge that you're human. And in that moment, I felt that, I heard that, and I lived it. And I made sure I took off my sunglasses to look at that man, and I did it.
It's this picture that captures the moment Samantha Francine is talking about. Francine was peacefully protesting for the Black Lives Matter movement after the death of Minnesota man George Floyd outside of Whitefish City Hall on June 3rd, when she was confronted by an angry man later identified by Whitefish police as 51-year-old Jay Snowden.
It was a surreal experience. I really can't describe it. I didn't, like I said, I don't really know if I felt fear. I still haven't processed it enough to, give a definite answer.
According to police, Snowden was later charged with 1 count of disorderly conduct. While she's experienced many positive things in Whitefish growing up, Francine says she was often met with discrimination.
The first time I remember being called the N-word, I was 7 years old. I wasn't invited to all the birthday parties because some parents were uncomfortable with my presence.
She says she struggled with her identity in a predominantly Caucasian community.
I started to try to make myself less African American. I started to straighten my hair, chemically straighten it regularly. I started, dyeing my hair. I tried to dye my hair blonde one time. I, went through periods of where I would try to starve myself so I would appear more thin, less curvy. And then, yes, when people would talk about the African American community in a negative way, I either wouldn't speak up or I would agree in some sort of sense so that they would feel comfortable around me.
With Floyd's death, she knew she had to be a voice for her community, and she wants change.
But there's not a lot of people of color in the community that I'm seeing. So I do want to be a part of the community. I do want to be out so that there is somebody to look up to, an example, something that you can recognize and identify with.
She says the best way to start change is start with a conversation.
Francine says peaceful protesting will continue to take place in honor of the Black Lives Matter movement from 5 to 7 each night here outside of Whitefish City Hall for the next 2 weeks. In Whitefish, Marin Sue, MTN News.
And the Whitefish mayor issued a statement saying the city of Whitefish condemns actions of hatefulness and bigotry and stands by Francine. Well, Montana's 2020 general election campaigns are now underway, and of course that means you'll be seeing plenty of campaign ads from now until November. As part of MTN's political coverage, we will be fact-checking some of these ad spots. Well, today, Chief Political Reporter Mike Dennison drills down on an ad from Republican gubernatorial candidate Greg Gianforte.
Gianforte and Democrat Mike Cooney became their party's respective nominees for governor last Tuesday. And within a day, Gianforte had an ad up going after Cooney.
No wonder Mike Cooney opposes term limits. He's a career politician and a government bureaucrat who has never had a real job.
It's true that Cooney, the current lieutenant governor, did oppose term limits, which have been in place in Montana since 1993. He's also spent most of his adult life working for government. As the elected Montana Secretary of State from 1989 to 2000, as an aide to former U.S. Senator Max Baucus, and more recently as lieutenant governor and a division chief in the state labor department. But he did work outside government for 5 years as head of Montana Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, a nonprofit advocating for healthcare programs that help children. We also asked Gianforte's campaign if they're saying anyone who works for the government doesn't have a real job. They said no, and that government employees work hard each day serving Montanans. The ad also dings Cooney for supporting an increase in the state gas tax and vehicle registration fees. It's talking about increases approved by the legislature in 2017 and supported by the Bullock administration, which Cooney is part of. The gas tax increase started out at 4.5 cents a gallon, reached 5 cents this year, and goes up to 6 cents by 2023. It's raising about $31 million this year for highway and street repairs in Montana, including $20 million for local government projects. And it also brings in an additional $80 million or so in federal highway funds to Montana. The vehicle registration fee increase was 3%, which is helping fund the state motor vehicle division. So, most of this ad's claims are true. It also lays out what will be a consistent theme and line of attack from Gianforte's campaign. That Cooney is a government bureaucrat, while Gianforte is the experienced businessman. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. Now, Gianforte started a successful software development firm in Bozeman and has been Montana's congressman since 2017. Cooney says it's clear that Gianforte plans a negative campaign and that he's proud of the accomplishments of the Bullock administration, such as expanding health coverage for Montanans. Well, for those of you who are looking for a new hiking or biking Montana adventure, listen up. Some Montana history will convert some old rails into some new trails. The Yellowstone Historic Center and Custer-Gallatin National Forest are teaming up to convert the abandoned Union Pacific Railroad line into a hiking and biking trail. Now, this trail will make up an important section of the Greater Yellowstone Trail and will connect to the Continental Divide Trail. The trail will also include interpretive signage along the way. The goal is to open the Yellowstone Shortline Trail next summer. Now, if you'd like to learn more and like to help the project along, you can head to this story at ktvq.com. All donations at or above $100 will receive recognition along the trail. Still ahead on tonight's 5:30 News, changes could be coming to Montana's legislative session. We'll have those details. And tonight in sports, who do you think should be on Montana's Mount Rushmore of sports? Scott shows us how you can help decide in just a bit.
And coming up in weather, it looks like our early spring-like temperatures will be moving into more summer-like stuff. But wait till you see what's coming with them. We'll talk about it coming up in a few more minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.